Picture this, a room, noise, laughter, overlapping conversations, everyone performing, transmitting, filling space with sound. And in the corner, someone who isn't. Not awkward, not excluded, just quiet, observing. And here's the strange part. Your attention keeps drifting toward them. Why? Most people assume quiet equals insecurity, shyness, maybe social anxiety, but there's something your brain already knows before you consciously notice it. Quiet isn't always absence. Sometimes it's a different kind of presence. Today we're looking at 6 mechanisms, neurobiological, psychological, behavioral, that explain what's actually happening when someone doesn't talk much. Not to validate, not to label, just to understand the machinery. Let's start with the obvious question. If talking equals visibility and visibility equals social success, why does the brain track the quiet person? Because your brain isn't optimizing for volume. It's optimizing for signal-to-noise ratio, and something in that stillness registers as signal. Mechanism 1. They're collecting while others are broadcasting. In 2012, Susan Cain published research showing that introverts demonstrate deeper information processing. Not smarter, not better, just structurally different. The brain prioritizes depth over breadth, internal reflection over external reaction. Here's the mechanism. When someone talks, Broca's area activates, the speech production center. But here's the trade-off. While Broca's is active, sensory processing capacity decreases. You can't fully encode incoming data while generating outgoing speech. It's a bandwidth constraint. Quiet people aren't passive, they're running a different algorithm. Less output, more input. The result, by the time they speak, they've processed layers most people missed. Pauses, micro-expressions, the gap between what someone says and what their body language is transmitting. This isn't telepathy. It's just what happens when you allocate cognitive resources differently. And here's where it gets interesting. That creates an asymmetry. The person who's been observing knows more about the room than the room knows about them. Information advantage, born not intentional, just structural. Mechanism 2. Internal locus of control. Nathaniel Branden's work on self-esteem identified something critical. People with high self-worth don't derive their value from external feedback. They have what psychologists call an internal anchor point. Here's the behavioral signature. Someone walks into a room. If their self-concept depends on external validation, they'll adjust. Louder with loud people, quieter with quiet people, constantly calibrating to the social temperature. But someone with an internal locus, they don't shift. Same energy with their boss as with their friend. Same tone at a party as alone. No masks, no performance. And here's why that's magnetic. Your brain is evolutionarily wired to trust consistency. Unpredictability signals threat. Stability signals safety. When someone doesn't change based on who's watching, your nervous system reads that as, this person knows who they are. And that, not charisma, not charm, creates pull. Mechanism 3. Kusinto. Economics applied to language. Daniel Kahneman's research on decision-making showed that most human speech is fast thinking, reactive, impulsive, low processing depth. But people who speak rarely, they're running slow thinking, analytical, considered, high information density per word. Here's the economic principle. Scarcity creates value, not moral value, market value. If something's abundant, attention diffuses. If something's rare, attention sharpens. Words work the same way. Someone talks constantly, the brain learns. There will be more, you can tune out. But when a quiet person speaks, even subconsciously, the room leans in. Because the brain has learned this is rare. This might matter. It's not manipulation. It's just pattern recognition applied to communication frequency. And here's the mechanism Hemingway called the iceberg theory. Most of the structure is underwater. Only the necessary part is visible. Quiet people don't perform their thinking process. They present the conclusion. Everything else, the observation, the analysis, the elimination of irrelevant paths, stays internal. The result? When they finally speak, it's distilled. And distillation, by definition, is higher concentration per unit. Mechanism 4. Tolerance for uncertainty. Viktor Frankl, writing from lived experience in concentration camps, described how meaning and freedom can exist in external silence. The ability to sit with your own mind without distraction, that's not emptiness, that's a cultivated capacity. Most people fear silence, not consciously, but watch what happens during a conversational pause. Immediate discomfort. Reach for the phone, fill the gap with any words, anything to avoid the void. Why? Because silence forces interiority. And interiority means encountering questions without immediate answers, uncertainty, discomfort. The parts of yourself you've been avoiding. There's a study from the University of Virginia, Timothy Wilson's team. Participants given a choice: sit alone with their thoughts for 15 minutes or receive a mild electric shock. Most chose the shock. Physical pain was preferable to 15 minutes of mental silence. Think about what that reveals about the default human relationship with interiority. Quiet people have crossed that threshold. Silence isn't a threat. It's a resource. Space for clarity, for pattern recognition, for the kind of thinking that doesn't happen in noise, and when someone is comfortable in silence, being around them feels different. No pressure to perform, no requirement to fill space, there's just presence without demand. Mechanism 5, the 3-question filter. Daniel Goleman's work on emotional intelligence identified impulse control as a core component, specifically the ability to delay reaction. To think before speaking. Here's the behavioral pattern. Before a quiet person speaks, they run an internal filter. Usually unconscious, but consistent. Question 1. Is this true? Not opinion. Verifiable. Question 2. Is this necessary? Does it add information or just fill space? Question 3. Does this improve the situation? Or am I speaking to relieve my own discomfort? If any answer is no, silence. This isn't passivity, it's strategic communication management. Because here's what most people don't realize. Every unnecessary word is information leakage. Your fears, your needs, your weak points. Quiet people don't hand out that data for free. And here's the secondary effect. That creates mystery. Not artificial. Structural. You never fully know them. And the brain is wired to be curious about the unknown. Mechanism 6. Presence density. Eckhart Tolle's work on present moment awareness describes a state where attention is fully here, not divided, not performing, just present. Most people, when they're with you, are simultaneously planning their next sentence, evaluating your status, thinking about what comes after this interaction. But when a quiet person looks at you, actually looks, something shifts, because they're not doing those other calculations, they're just seeing you. And that's rare enough that it registers. Social psychology research shows people who speak less but maintain steady eye contact are perceived as more intelligent, more confident, more trustworthy. Not because they're performing confidence, but because actual confidence doesn't need proof. It just exists. So here are the 6 mechanisms. Observation while others broadcast. Internal anchor instead of external validation. Scarcity making words valuable. Comfort in silence, the 3-question filter, and presence without performance. But here's the part most explanations miss. None of this makes quiet people better or worse. It's just a different operating system, different trade-offs, different strengths and weaknesses. The real question, the one worth asking yourself, is this. If you're someone who's quiet, is it because your nervous system genuinely prefers low stimulation? Or is it because somewhere along the line, silence became a defensive strategy against something you stopped examining? And if you're someone who's not quiet, when you fill silence with words, is that connection? Or is that avoiding the discomfort of just being with another person without a script? These aren't rhetorical questions, they're diagnostic. And the answer changes what this all means. Quiet isn't weakness, but it isn't automatically strength either. It's a pattern. And like all patterns, it's worth understanding why it's there.